One of the many reasons why language learners fail to get the results they are looking for in any language learning process is the idea of focus. What you focus on expands. What you don't focus on does not expand. Hi, my name is Longy AGOHA. I'm your language coach. And what I do really is to make you speak. Speak French fluently or with ease. I discovered after 18 years of teaching that if you focus on the wrong areas of the language, you will neglect the other side of the language, and that will make your language learning process suffer. Most of the time, language learners want to learn a particular language, which is not a very bad idea in itself. The problem is they fail to define exactly why they are learning that particular language. It might be to take exams and pass them, or to be able to read and write, to speak the language. If you take all these notions together, you might be a jack of all trades and become a master of none of them. See, I think what we need to do as language learners is first define exactly why you want to learn this language. If you are in a school, you want to sit for an exam and pass, of course, you need to read and write, listen, and possibly speak. All the four notions of the language, you need to learn them. I understand that. But the problem is, because you are looking at all the four notions, you might not become an expert in any of them. You will just learn a bit of all of them and not becoming a master of any of them. For me, I believe that if you want to learn how to speak a language, you don't need to learn all the structures of the language. You don't really need it. Let us take an example of a little child. When a child is born, that child will start listening to the parents. And after a while, that child will start emulating the parents, and then eventually will start speaking the language without learning the language for once, without learning the structures of the language for once. That is the grammar, the syntax, vocabulary, nowhere. That child does not learn any of these things, but the child would start speaking the language without learning any of the structures I've told you about. How come? Listening, first of all, is the key to learning language. And the most important one is the sound of the language. Language learners around the world fail in this. They believe that learning the words is enough. I tell you today that it is not enough. If you want to master any particular language, you need to start with the sound. Do you know that in French has 37 phonemes? That is the sound of the language. In spite of the fact that it has 26 letters of the alphabet, just like in English. English in itself has also 26 letters of the alphabet, but with 44 sound structures. So there are more sounds in French and English than the 26 letters of the alphabet. If you do not train your ears to discriminate these sounds, you will find it difficult to know when a native speaker or anybody speaks that particular language. That's one great difficulty many language learners have. They just plunge into a book, start reading the words without learning the sound structure of the language. You forget that as soon as you leave the classroom and you walk on the streets, nobody would ask you, do you know the sound, do you know the word of this language? They would always ask you, do you speak the language? And for you to speak a language, you need to listen and understand the sound. So speaking is very important, but for you to speak, you need to be able to discriminate the sounds. You need to know the sound structure of the language you're learning. This is one thing that a lot of people do. A lot of people make this mistake, and that's why after many months or years of learning a language, they still find it difficult or struggle to speak the language because they did not train their ears to discriminate the sounds. If you train your eyes only, believe me, if you don't hear the sound, you will not be able to discriminate the sound. You only wait until you open the books to say, oh, this is the word you're saying. You need to train your ears first, and then your mouth, and then your eyes. And not eyes, mouth, and ears. No. First your ears, second your mouth, and third your eyes. That is how children learn languages. Every child speaks his or her mother's tongue before going to school, without learning the grammar, the syntax, the words of the language. He does that or she does that by listening alone and then repeating or practicing. And so for me, I have taken that as a rule, as a standard rule. If you come to my language training sessions, I make sure your ears are able to understand the sounds of the language you're learning, in this case French or English, and then we practice. We practice. Speaking is a physical activity, not a mental activity. You do not read speaking. You practice speaking. Hey, why don't you come to one of my training sessions and get a feel exactly of what I'm talking about? Until next time, friends, please keep speaking up.